Sometimes you ask yourself, are you successful?
The difference between having a salary job and an entrepreneurial job is job. It's not even a job. It's a lifestyle. But the difference is the opportunity for growth. You would change their lives. You gave them this job, this business, and it changed their lives.
Yeah, and it changed my life.
Success.
Hi, thanks for tuning in for Success MN. This is a local Minnesota podcast talking about people who have become successful in their own line of work, whether they've started their own business, had a side hustle, or just been highly successful at their W-2 job. And here we are connecting people. Tune in, see who's on board today.
Today, we have Virginia Jansen here. She has done almost everything in the mortgage industry. She has done auto financing. She has managed a branch. She has done so many loans. I'm sure that she's lost count. But she also is a franchise owner of Stretch Lab. And if you don't know what Stretch Lab is, it is kind of like assisted yoga. It's very nice for athletes and it's great. So everyone, give a warm welcome to Virginia.
Well, thanks, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Well, thank you. Yes, Stretch Lab, such a great business. I own the Egan and St. Paul studios, and it is exactly what you just said. It's assistant stretching, so it's one-on-one pressure points, and you get to gauge the amount of pressure that you would like. So it's not hurtful as much as people say. To me specifically, like, I'm not flexible. That's not something I would be good at. And I say, well, actually, we want the people who aren't flexible because then you're going to get the most use out of it. Mm-hmm. So, and it is not hurtful, right? So, as you know, you've been to Stretch Lab.
Yeah, it's not hurtful, but I did cry.
But it was a good cry. It was a good cry.
It was a very good cry. It was like, you go in and you talk about which muscles hurt and where you need to work. And somehow it was just the release. Like, I don't remember what stretch we were doing, but my flexologist kept saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was, why did she keep asking me that? And I felt just tears running down my face. So I'm sure she thought I was in pain, but I wasn't. It was just a very nice release. And I think it's more therapeutic than massage. Like a massage, you go in, you feel great for an hour or however long you get your massage for. You walk out and then that's kind of it. But a session in Stretch Lab has made me feel more athletic. It has made me more apt to do different exercises. It's just been a great experience.
Yes, exactly that. And like you said, the crying was a good release. I tell so many people, I go for just stress release, right?
Yeah.
Because we get busy in our day-to-day lives. We get busy with work, our activities, our social lives. And sometimes just being on that bench, letting your body relax, getting all the, everything stretched out the way it's supposed to be, can just really release all those endorphins. And the stress just goes away. So I always say it's about a 3 to 5 day stress release. So if you can make it to the 5 days, then really you start to notice the difference in your body. It's changing again. So we recommend everyone come in once a week for 50 minutes so they can get that stress relief. They can help their bodies with mobility, flexibility, agility, you name it. And it's something that I really think is important for each person in their life.
Yeah, and you've got a membership package for this.
Yes, yeah. So it varies in what you're looking for, but is customizable. But most of the time, our number one package is going to be coming in once a week for 50 minutes. And you'll really see, what that can do for your body and how much it helps. There's also 25-minute packages for those who maybe don't have the time for 50 minutes. I know that can scare people, like once a week for 50 minutes. I can't do that for myself. So you can stack your 25-minute sessions, for example, every 2 weeks if you wanted. So there are different packages, and then there's also our starter packs. So those are for the people who might be a little hesitant for that commitment for once a week. So starter packs can be much cheaper or discounted versus buying the full sessions.
Okay. So a starter pack is like a package deal and 10 sessions or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You can do, I believe, off the top of my head, I want to say 5 sessions or 10 sessions for the 50 minutes or the 25-minute sessions.
Okay. And can you just walk in?
You can, yes. Yes, most of the studios are open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think the last session's taken at 7, so I wouldn't recommend walking in at 8.
Okay.
You could probably walk in at 7, and if someone's available. Most of our flexologists are highly trained, so they have a background in kinesiology or some sort of personal training. They all have to have some sort of certificate prior to coming to Stretch Lab. So could be a yoga instructor, Pilates instructor, could be any of the above. But they have to have at least a base knowledge of the body and how it operates. And they go through extensive training. Our course training is well over 60 hours of full training. So online, yeah, you probably didn't know that about your flexologist.
I did not.
They do a lot of extensive training, and then once we feel comfortable enough, they have to do a lot of practice sessions with master flexologists or with specific trainers within or elite flexologists within our studios.
Okay, like a little bit of shadowing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had no idea the training was that intense.
Yes, and actually, majority of our flexologists at both of our studios have been around at least a year, which is surprising because in that line of work, a lot of people who are in the fitness field don't typically stay at one place more than a year, and they typically, especially part-time, because it is part-time work as well. So that says something about Stretch Lab itself, that people really enjoy it there, that we take care of the employees, that they really enjoy helping people.
Yeah, you must have really created a good culture.
I think so, yes.
Is there something that you lean on to create a good culture, or is it just regular meetings? Is it opportunities for growth? Like, what do you like to focus on at your locations?
Definitely opportunities for growth. So each person, if they want to take on lead responsibilities or assistant manager responsibilities, we always offer that those options are fast tracking. So I feel like that opportunity is really good for those who want to step up or do that. Always something that we can do. Another thing is we do have regular meetings. We do have, tracking what each person's doing, what we can do to make the studio better. And I think just listening and the culture really helps everything.
Yeah. I know every time that I've met one of your employees, they all seem really happy to be there. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, you've created a really nice culture over there. You have.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I enjoy it. Every time I walk in, I smile and know that they're all doing such a good job.
Yeah, and it's such a cool vibe too. Like, I love the design of both locations. It feels nice and clean. It feels like you're going there for therapy, and it's a great setup, great idea. I think the whole thing is wonderful.
Well, thank you. And they're both so different. I mean, St. Paul has the Grand Avenue feel to it and the open ceilings and concept, and you can even hear people within the complex. I think that's really neat. We didn't want to lose that with that environment there. But Egan's more, suburbia. It's definitely larger studio, higher ceilings, but both are such a calming feeling.
Yeah, no, they are really great. Now I have tried to get my dad to go, and he's like, "Well, that's not for me." I'm still working on him, but I think who is the ideal candidate that signs up for Stretch Lab?
Majority of the candidates that sign up for Stretch Lab are going to be, there's about 3 different categories, I would say. So you typically a child athlete. Mm-hmm. So for example, any competitive dancer or any child athlete that maybe, I hate to categorize people, but the A, B, and C squad. So your A's are your top performers, your B's are, if they just practiced or got an edge, they could be A performers. And C, it's like, no matter what you do, there's nothing that's going to happen. So for your B categories, I would say the people who just need that extra edge, right? Whether it be gymnastics, whether it be football, basketball, tennis, you name it, that child athlete that comes in and their parents actually are able to put in the time and effort to get them stretched. A lot of the coaches have come back and said, oh my gosh, what are you doing? That's so different because now your child athlete that was once a B star is now becoming an A star.
Mm-hmm.
So really neat to see that happening. So that's pretty common, especially in Egan. St. Paul. So I was going to say the next category would probably be between the ages of 45 and 55. I feel like a lot of people during that age group start to notice changes in their body, but they don't know how to compensate for it. So they might be still working out just like they were in their 30s or 40s, but then all of a sudden their bodies don't move the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they really take an emphasis on wanting to take care of their bodies and get it to the next level so they don't have mobility issues. However, St. Paul's a little unique because they're starting around the ages of 30 or 35 rather than 45 in Egan, I noticed.
Huh.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's just a conscientious effort and they're really that culture, with the healthier eating around there and different activities are more driven there. So I feel like people a little bit younger are starting to notice, hey, this is important right now for me.
Yeah.
And then the third category are going to be the people who really are not very mobile. So, 70 plus, I noticed they're looking for something to help. And it is helping. We have some clients who've actually been with us for a year and a half since we opened in Egan. And where they once could barely sit on the bench by themselves, now they're able to fully sit on the bench by themselves.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So it is helping. Do I think it's the answer? No. I think that, obviously they probably are going to physical therapy. They're probably getting their bodies more mobile at home, but they're taking that extra step or effort to see the best improvement in their bodies.
Okay. So this sounds like the icing on the cake for anyone who's trying to take themselves to the next level physically.
Yes. Yeah. In one way, shape, or form, it's helping their bodies do better.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. As we make our bodies much better here.
Yeah. I mean, there's more than one way to make a body better.
Mm-hmm. This might not be it, but we'll figure that out.
Wine is good for the heart.
It is. Especially this one.
Yeah. I think we need it sometimes. So speaking of wine, I'm looking back on the previous podcast episodes we did, and I keep saying the word like over and over and over again. So instead of getting a shot collar, we're turning it into a drinking game. Every time I use the word like as a filler, just grab your glass because I don't even notice that I do it.
Okay, you probably need me to point it out then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Me
don't
too.
even notice.
Yeah, I'll just
Sorry.
I'll ring the thing. How about that? I'll do this.
All right,
Every time. Is that really annoying?
That's our click
No,
for
it's
the
perfect.
wine. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
That
what
works.
you drink. Okay.
Perfect. Great. Now we have a game. So, okay. Now let's break into a little bit more of the journey. So actually, no, how did you start Stretch Lab?
So I was actually a client. I was going to the Plymouth Stretch Lab.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I loved it. So then I went home and I told my husband, hey, you got to come with. You got to try this. And he's an avid golfer. So he was like, okay. So he tried it and loved it. Then my business partner at the time, I was talking with him. I said, oh, you're back into golfing. You got to go try Stretch Lab. And he said, okay. So he tried it. And then about 2 or 3 months in, he says to me, he's like, we should open a franchise. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. So then we started looking into it. But yeah, that's what started it.
And yeah, so you dominated. Yeah, dominated. I mean, you're the only ones allowed in Egan and St. Paul. What other potential locations do you have?
So we have most of the southeast or southern metro territory, I would say. So our intentions would be to open another one in Apple Valley, maybe Lakeville Savage, or we could open one in Burnsville. Rochester we actually have there too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
I wonder how much you could tie that in with the Mayo and like kind of join in on their physical therapy.
Yeah, I am pretty sure it would do well there. I really do believe that. Plus, preventative too. A lot of people who actually live there, nurses, doctors, they might actually like it because it would be a good stress reliever and help their bodies.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Rochester is a good category for that. And then I think we maybe consider Highland Park just because it's so different than Grand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, another 4 or 5 we can open in the next probably 4 years is our intentions. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I wish you all the growth, and I wish it rapidly, and everything that you want from it, I want from it.
Well, thank you. And we love having you as a member, Melissa.
Yeah. I definitely make it a part of my weekly routine. It's beneficial. Well, I make it as much as my weekly routine as I possibly can. It's, life's been a little busy lately. But I know that, like, you need to make taking care of your body a priority, and I just haven't.
You will. We all get in the swing of things. Once January 1st hits, we all go, okay, reset.
Yeah. I'm trying to beat the swing to it. Everybody's doing the 75 hard right now.
Okay.
I'm doing 75 soft because I'm drinking. But
so is this drink number 1 of 75? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I've got another 74 lined up out the door.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a long night.
It's gonna be a long night. No, I don't think you're supposed to drink on it, but here we are. The whole point of doing this workout plan is so that you integrate a new lifestyle. So you're supposed to work out twice a day, drink over a gallon of water a day, read 10 pages of a self-help book, and all of that. And I've been doing 1 workout a day. So
that's good.
Yeah, but noticing that in the changes in my body, like, yes, I'm capable of more activity, but I'm also way more sore all the time. So I do need to just
go back to stretch lab.
I do. I do. I know you miss me.
We do. You need to come back consistently. It's a good thing.
I do. Consistency is what matters more than anything. So
agree.
Yeah. Great. Congratulations on the business growth.
Thank you.
And so you had your start in mortgages, which allowed you the opportunity to expand to other, like, entrepreneurial stretch lab opportunities. So let's talk about your start in mortgage. Like, did someone just magically get into the mortgage industry, or?
No, I think most people who are in the mortgage industry either get in when it's really good, or they're recruited by somebody who sees their potential. So I was kind of recruited by my second ex-husband.
Okay.
So we both worked in the auto industry, auto finance, and then he got recruited to mortgages, and then him and I ran a branch in mortgages shortly after.
Do you think he married you because he thought you'd be really good at mortgages?
Yes. And other things. But we won't talk about that.
He was like, if I'm going to be a gold digger, I got to make this woman rich.
Yes, I got to find the right one. And this is it. No. No, I was, looking back, he's not my favorite person in the world after everything we've been through. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Oh. Jeez, I'll try to get the base back.
No, you can just say the same sentence again. He's not my favorite person in the world.
He's not my favorite person in the world. Just kind of our trials and tribulations of what we went through. But he taught me everything about mortgages. He's really good at sales. I don't think I would have ever upped my level in sales without his input in life. So there was that. And just learning at a high intensity level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes it important so you can see how you can manage and do things correctly and how you can manage others correctly.
Yeah. I think, so maybe there's good to finding a partner that's in the industry, because I've always said I don't want to ever date anyone in mortgage, anyone in mortgage and lending. I don't ever want to date another realtor. It's just, I need to come home and disconnect from it. But it sounds like you went home and had more sales trainings.
Yes. Teach me more. But it is hard. It is a trade-off, right? I mean, you don't shut it off. When you're married to your business partner, however that looks, it's 24/7.
Mhm.
So you don't really get a break unless you go on a girls trip or unless you go visit family. You know, you are constantly with that person and you're always talking about work
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
Well, then you never run out of things to talk about.
True. It's never a boring evening. We're not the couple that sits there on our phones and once in a while looks up and goes, hi, and then goes back down, you know. It was
Yeah. I would never assume that of you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I usually am staring at my husband currently and being like, can you please talk to me for 10 minutes? Just please. That's all I ask. Just 10. And then we're good.
10, and he sets a timer.
Yes. Yeah. And then his timer goes on his phone. And then all of a sudden it beeps. And I'm like, what? Did I really mean? I meant 15.
Yeah, I said 15.
Yeah. I swear it was 20. So, but yeah, no, it's true. I looking back, I would not be with somebody that, you know, is in my line of work and work with them all the time.
Learning curve. I mean, it was a springboard that got you to the point that you were. I don't know very many mortgage lenders doing the level of business that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
I don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think however someone gets successful, it doesn't necessarily matter how they get there as long as they get there ethically.
Yes. All
But
ethics. I mean, there was some sexual innuendos, harassment, such things going on with my husband, but I'm kidding.
you, I'm like, I mean, if you called the card, you did.
But other than that, it was all kosher.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, honey, I'll take this call if you do this, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah. I'm like, I'll call HR if you don't.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
But, okay. So, and then let's get into the resume. How you got started? Because you didn't start as an originator. Can you start as an originator?
You can, yes, but I didn't. No, I was in banking for many years, and then I moved over to auto finance for many years. And then eventually moved my way into mortgages. And so I was a branch manager at an auto finance company and then became co-branch manager with my ex-husband at the mortgage company.
Okay.
So kind of took the same philosophies, right? How to manage people, how to, run HR with people, how to time manage, how to sales train. So now that I think about back then, these are some funny stories now that I remember. Like we used to have computers weren't the same. Okay, so back in 2005 when I started, we used to get these call lists. So people who would apply online, it would print, and we would literally run to the printer, whoever was there, and we would take it off the printer and we would call them on the phone, and we would say, hey, I just saw you applied on lowermybills.com, for example, or LendingTree or wherever it is. And I'm calling to see if you want to refinance or if you want to purchase and what can we do to help you? And you always made it sound like you were the person calling from the place, right? So whoever that lead generation was, you would just say, hey, I'm the expert from lowermybills.com. And then all of a sudden you'd hear them put you on hold for a second. Oh, it's so weird. I got so-and-so from lowermybills.com on the other line. Because,
like, talk to me.
Yeah, because it was within, 20 seconds? Oh, sorry. Oh. So it was within 20 seconds, and you're like, no. I'm with lowermybills.com. I ask them what mortgage company they're with. And they would go back on the other line and, oh, you're right. They're with ABC Mortgage. And you're like, yeah. So anyways, go ahead and let them go. Let's finish up our conversation. And
that is funny.
Yeah. You would just say, I'm the expert from that place. You're not saying you don't work for another mortgage company. You just get them on the phone first and say you're the expert.
I bet you were the only person doing that. I bet there was not the other people calling. I bet they didn't even think about doing that.
No, of course not. And then whenever we had new sales training, so we get all the newbies, I want to be in mortgages, I want to be in sales. Okay. Majority of them would like a sales background, but I would give them the really hard call lists, right? The ones that no one's talked to in 60 days. The one collecting pile of dust on the counter.
Yeah.
And I would hand it to them and say, these people just applied today, so get them on the phone and get an application. They want to work with you. So they would take the list and they call through it, and about halfway through they're like, no one's answering, and I'd be like, that's so weird, keep trying. Keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
Try 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
If whatever your 3 times looks like. If you want to make 3 in a row, if you want to split it up, however it looks, call them 3 times in a day.
Did they ever convert a lead?
Yes.
It works.
All the time. And then it was funny if I heard them on the phone and they finally got someone on and they sounded really bored, like the actual loan officer, for example, if they just
The loan officer sounds bored.
yeah, because they'd sat at the phone all day, right?
Oh.
No one was answering, right? And then suddenly they get one person on the phone and they're not excited. They're just like, oh, hey, how are you? What's going on? So what I used to do was before I handed them the list, I would make them go run 2 ways around the building as fast as they could. And then I hand them their list.
And then stop at Stretch Lab.
No. I make them run super fast around the building. I'd be like, come on, let's go. And then they, start the day and they grab their list and they'd sit down and call. Now, when they got someone on the phone, they were usually out of breath, right? They're like, hey, this is Melissa. I'm calling to let you know about your mortgage. And they're like, oh, hey. And so if you're on the other line, right, first of all, you're like super interested. You're like, who is calling me out of breath, right? Or they just sound really excited to be talking to you. So then you're intrigued, right? Then you're like, okay. So what they noticed was the more excited they got, the more excited the other person on the line got. And then they worked with them. So it was just getting that excitement level.
works.
Yeah. I mean, just the silly little things we did in training just to get people going. So
Sounds like Clausen Home Group's going to start running laps.
yeah, highly recommend it. See, you guys wanted your 2 workouts a day. I gotcha.
We're all on Hard 75, but you're doing it during the workday.
Yes. It's definitely just little tricks we would try. Because, it was so discerning when you're working in a market that was so competitive back then.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you could easily get a lead. People were all refinancing. They were all looking back in 2005. The market was super hot. But what separated you from somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to think of really creative ways to make that happen. And I feel like that's kind of the market now, right? So many choices and so little inventory, and rates are not desirable. So what do you do to set yourself apart?
Run laps is the answer.
Run laps and get on the phone.
So how do you inspire your teammates to call? Like, this is just, I talk to team leads all the time.
Yeah.
And like team leads, I said like,
oh, she did. It's time.
team leads. Shot caller.
Yeah, you're catching yourself. That's good.
I'm getting better. So team leads spent all this money on leads. And then the team is asking, can I get leads? Can I get leads? And then I log into the system and I see that nobody has logged in for 2 weeks. I've been paying for leads for 2 weeks that have gone uncalled, undialed.
Yeah.
How do you make people call?
Well, first I would say accountability is a lot, right? So holding them accountable. If they ask for leads, I think that's a great idea. Really? Okay, when can I get my leads? First, I think we should look and see how much you've done and then how many more we need to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Then you pull it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one hasn't been called. Well, maybe that's just an oversight, right? Right. Oh, this one hasn't been called. That's kind of weird. Now we're starting to see a pattern. Look, this one hasn't been called. Geez. So 3 I pull up in a row haven't been called. So you're telling me you only need no leads? Or 1 lead? How many leads do you need for the 3 that haven't been called?
So, I mean, another cliche in real estate is the leads don't suck, you do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's just pointing it out to them. Because once you hold somebody accountable, guess what? Either 1 of 2 things are going to happen, right? Either 1, they're actually going to take it to heart and they're going to go call the leads, right? Which is what they should be doing. Or 2, they're going to go, you know what? Melissa called me out and I just felt really uncomfortable about it. So I'm just not going to ask for leads anymore. Either way, you resolve the problem of not being asked for leads anymore if they're not clearly calling them.
Yeah.
So that's my advice on how to hold them accountable. But if you start from day 1 and scratch 1, right, you just have to set that enthusiasm. Are they going to figure out, the people that I worked with, are they going to figure out in 60 days, are they going to figure out that the leads they were calling were 60 days old? Probably in the first week or 2, right? They're probably going to go, Okay, everyone's going to the fresh printer. They've been here a long time. I'm not going to the fresh printer. She's handing me dusty paper every day, right? So eventually they're going to notice things, right?
They might pick up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So how to avoid that is you just tell them what they need to hear, right? You're not lying. You're just saying these people did apply. I did say that. These people really need a call back. That's true. These people really need to refinance. Probably very true. So it's just how you present it, right? If I were to say these are all 60 days old, then they're all probably going to go, oh, you know. But if you say, hey guys, I just printed off a whole batch of leads. You may or may not have called them, but I'm going to tell you this. The first person to get the lead and get it going, and if you need my help closing the deal or getting that person out looking for a house, I'll jump in and help you, no problem. But you got to take the initiative and you got to make this first lead work.
It's so interesting now because everything's electronic. They get a text message that's like, call them right now. And they say, oh, I'll do it once I blah, blah, blah. Come up with an excuse. And I don't know what it is. But
well, and then it's back to basics. You know, I think it's also part of goal setting. Okay, where do you see yourself now? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How are you going to get there? Work it backwards, right? Well, Melissa, if I was a new realtor years, right? And I walk in and I say, I want to make $100,000 my first year. First, you're probably going to chuckle and say, well, I guess you could, but you'd have to work really hard. And I would say, okay, show me how to do that. And you would show me how to work it backwards. You would probably need 2 to 5 closings a month. Here's how it works. Here's how you do it. And here's what it looks like. And here's the hard work you have to put in. You have to be available evenings, available weekends. When a lead comes in, you got to call it right away. You have to stay consistently on top of them. Kind of my theory of call them 3 times in that day. I don't care what it looks like, but call them 3 times. Basically, you know, I remember saying that in sales too. I want to either get told yes or I want to get told no. And if I get a no, I want it to be a mean no, right? I don't want it to be a nice no.
I want my feelings to get hurt.
Yeah, I want them to try, right? Like, I want to hear, F you bothered me so much today and you're the most horrible person in the world. And guess what? It never happens, right?
Right.
Usually they just say, you're so persistent, I'm interested in talking to you. Or you're so persistent, what do you need? You know?
Some money. I need some money.
I need to bring you out to a house, okay, now. So, I mean, but the persistency is key. I don't know how many times I stare at my phone and someone calls me 3 or 4 times that day and I'm like, it's either somebody important or they're persistent. But either way, I'm interested in talking to them.
Yeah.
So, and we're so scared about the persistency. Someone's going to tell me to F off. Great. Guess what? You told me to F off. Now I'm going to go find someone who's not. So I'm not going to waste my time on you. I'm going to waste my time on somebody else until they tell me that they want to work with me or they want me to F off. So,
yeah. One less number you got to call every day.
Exactly. So I would rather get told no because I'm super persistent than to get told no because I don't know what. Because I called them at the wrong time, you know? I don't know. It's just really holding them accountable, really setting their goals, really making sure that whatever their vision's aligned with, if all of a sudden, let's say I come to you, we'll use the example of 100,000. Let's say halfway through the year, I've only made 20,000. And you can see me going like this, right? I'm going way downhill really quick. And I'm going, gosh, Melissa, maybe I should get another job. Maybe I should pick up waitressing or bartending or hotel cleaning overnight or whatever it looks like, right? I need to compensate my income. It's easy for you to go back and say, well, wait a second, Virginia, what happened? Because I showed you the tools. I showed you how to get there. Here are your goals that we went over together. So where did this go wrong? And it's pretty easy, right? It would be me. It would be the person that didn't take those tools and didn't follow exactly the steps to get there. So then it becomes a really easy conversation of, do you want to get there? Let's reset you. Or if you don't, and you only want to be Miss part-time and you only want to make your 20 grand every 6 months, make 40 grand a year, is what you did for that 20 grand over that 6 months really worth it to you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is such a funny industry because you can, well, at the beginning, you work so hard. And you're calling leads that are 60 days old and nobody answers. And then you'll get to the point where you start closing a deal. And you close a deal every month. Then you're closing 2 a month. Then you're closing however many months. And some people pick it up and they hit the ground running. And some people take a few years to get there. But the potential in this job is just unlimited.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
And it's what you make of it. And you have to put in that hard work. You know, I remember when I first got into the industry, it was so easy to make so much money. I mean, we didn't have enough hours in the day. I mean, we were making so much. And then the crash hit. And then you go from making so much to doing the same amount of work and making very, very, very little. So to give you an example, my first year in the mortgage industry, I cracked back $600,000. My second, third, and fourth year, I made $40,000. And I was working the exact same amount of hours.
oh, my feelings, they hurt.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. So it's you have to be prepared to jump when the industry is hot, and you have to be prepared to work just as hard when the industry is not hot.
Mhm.
And I think that's really hard for people to do, right?
Yeah, and I think it's so relevant to right now. I hear agents say all the time that they are doing 3 times the amount of work for 80% of the pay.
Yeah.
And I get it. The market tanks, and that's just what it is. So when you go from such a hot market, and she's talking about 2007, everyone, we know what happened. When you go from that into the crash, the recession, the only houses that are selling are foreclosures, and people are holding on to dear life to their only asset while they're still getting phased out of their monthly payments. That's a hard market. How do you keep going? How do you keep the business coming?
So are you talking about 2007 or right now?
2007 to 2008,
Okay.
and then we can compare it to right now.
Yeah, so 2007 to 2008, that was a really hard market, and rates actually were about the same they are now. How crazy is that? They were between 6.5 and 7.5. Yeah,
In 2008.
they were. Yes.
So right after, because there were a lot of rates paying like 14
Oh yeah,
plus
yes,
in 2007.
yes, for sure. But right when the recession hit, so conventional mortgage financing until 2011 was still upper sixes, low sevens. Hard to believe, yes, but the pricing of the houses were so low, right? Because everybody was foreclosing, no one could afford their mortgages. There was more bankruptcy and foreclosures than any other time. So the crash really hit people who had their houses and depreciated very quickly. They put a lot of regulations and laws, count 2015, 2010. So 2010 was the appraisal laws. So back in the day.
They took that long to put the laws in place.
Yeah. So back in the day, we used to be able to call appraisers in 2005, 6, 7, and 8 and say, hey, we think this house appraises for $500,000 if someone was doing a refinance, for example. So they needed so much for a cash out refi.
The lender who's never been in the house would say that.
Correct. I mean, we'd actually call the client and say, okay, tell me everything about the house. What did you do? Oh, you got a new stove. So you remodeled your whole kitchen. Got it. You know, so you just,
Oh,
you know,
gosh.
you told the appraiser everything great about the house that would add value to the house that
and
you
you're
knew of.
helping.
Right.
You're helping. This is what the client wanted.
Correct. They wanted the max cash out. They needed to pay all their debts off. So it made perfect sense. But you know, a lot of times the appraiser, and if I didn't say anything or I didn't have that conversation with the client, the appraiser would call me and say how much you need. And you'd be like, $525. They'd be like, okay. And I'd be like,
That's crazy.
what can I have? $550? Sure. Is that what you want? Okay. You know,
What was the point of appraisers back then?
pretty much to say the house was standing and there was 4 walls and
Did they
pictures.
look at the house?
yeah, there was pictures.
Oh,
They went to
okay.
the houses. Yeah.
Okay.
So there were times where underwriters might cut the appraisal back then, and you'd go, yeah, okay. You know, you wouldn't question them too often
Yeah.
because you probably knew it wasn't very good, or you would get a lot of questions back in the day of, why didn't they use this comparable? And you'd be like, well, clearly you know why they didn't use that comparable. They didn't use that comparable because it doesn't give the value. It doesn't support the value. So we're not going to use all those foreclosed homes that sold in the last 6 months within their 2-mile radius. We're going to go out
Oh.
5 miles a year ago because that's more comparable. So we can obtain the value.
You can just choose.
Yeah.
You can choose.
Yeah, and then underwriters would say, no, we're not going to pick and choose. So
Okay, so before there was appraisal laws, the underwriters were kind of like,
they got to pick and choose more so. Yeah.
Okay,
So they would cut values on you based on
interesting.
what they thought that it would probably be.
And now that's not what underwriters do at all.
No. So now that they have appraisal as an order, so no, we can no longer pick and choose our appraisal companies. That gets picked through an AMC. And we can no longer have conversations directly with the appraiser as lenders unless it is based on very little. I'm just trying to think of any examples really.
There was, I think, within the past year, 2 years that they waived appraisals.
Okay, yeah, there were quite a few. If you were putting 20 or 30% down, or you were buying the house under market value, yeah, there was a lot of waiving of appraisals.
Yeah.
Specifically.
I always assumed that a lot of times it'd be one of those like Ridgefield houses, like a 3-bed, 2-bath, 3-bed, 1-bath, where all the houses are kind of the same.
Yeah.
That was one of them, and the other one was that 20% down new construction,
Oh, okay.
but outside financing, not builder.
Yeah, the only one I run across recently, I had one that put 50% down.
Oh
And
my!
they got an appraisal waiver. Yeah, I was like, oh, that one worked.
They're like, that person's got $50,000 they can put down. They don't need to pay for an appraisal. They got to put $50,000 down, or
Yeah,
50%
no,
down.
it was a townhouse in Maple Grove for $499,000, and they put $250,000 down. Yeah, and that was just a month ago.
lucky.
So, yeah, they were.
Huh.
They were in a good position. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I've seen recently a lot of people that are taking their money out of the stock market because they're not making money anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and divesting it, putting it into real estate.
Yeah,
Have you been seeing that trend too?
I have. A lot of people are depleting their stocks to purchase homes. Yes, I've noticed that, especially in the last 2 years, more specifically. But yeah, it's crazy. Okay, sorry. Your next question was the nowadays.
Nowadays, so compare the crash market to this market. Now, this market is different because now we have all of these mortgage regulations. Now, and back then, the crash was originated within mortgages because of a lot of the things we just talked about. And all of it was legal. But now we're finding out that because of a lot of the lending practices that were happening back then, now we just have a lot more protections for the consumer. So now consumer protections, what do you think about working in this market, trying to close deals in this market?
Yeah, so once the regulators came through, and
The regulators
wound up, they all wounded us up. And they had us get licensed. They put, appraisal laws in place. They put TRID laws in place. Just so much that they changed. Even the GFE is different. We used to have
Good faith
itemized.
estimate.
Yeah. Oh gosh, they used to be so pretty and nice and
They
beautiful.
were.
And now they are just ugly and confusing, and the poor consumer. I mean, if I have to explain it, it takes me half hour on the phone. That's not okay. The other one I never had explained. So just think about that perspective. However, the government regulators of CFPB and all the regulations that came into place, they opted to not hire within the mortgage community. So they had basically auditors draft the GFE, the 2015 GFE.
That makes a lot of sense because there's the new estimate is so confusing because it doubles up on all of the numbers. So it'll be a number in this column is again over here, and then you have to see that it's the same value to figure out that it's not a double fee, and they're horrible.
Yes,
They're horrible.
they are. They're not okay.
Yeah.
So I don't like them. So then that came into place, and they made us get licensed. But realtors always had to be licensed, but mortgage originators did not. So they had us. We had to do a state test and a federal test, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure had more fine questions than actual questions. I don't know if you guys have the same for realty.
Real estate, it's more different. Like how many feet are in an acre?
Oh, okay. So ours were more like, if you break this law, your penalty is 10,000 or 100 or 200.
Yeah.
And I would just scratch my head and say, what if I don't break any law? Is it zero still? Like, where's
Right.
that option? So, but they wanted you to recognize and know all the laws that you can break, and then what all the fines were for each law. So what I learned was that if I was going to break laws, I knew the highest ones to break. No, I'm kidding. So therefore, I wouldn't have to worry ever again because I would go to jail the rest of my life. But
smart.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear. But no, so, all that came into place. And then no longer were houses being depreciated. So that was a good thing for people once the market stabilized.
And you say depreciated as in like the tax write-off, or depreciated as in values weren't going down anymore?
Their values were not going down anymore. And it made it more challenging. The credit scores all got raised up. Down payments got raised up. Everything got raised up. So, and then back in the day, believe it or not, too, we didn't know who Fannie or Freddie were most of the time.
Who was giving the money?
Oh, so brokers, and they ran Fannie Freddie. So,
wow.
And half the time they didn't even run conventional. They were just running their own money. So, yeah, Penny Mac was a big one. All the big lenders were Ginnie Mae. Those were actually lenders that didn't run DU or LP. So interesting enough, I had to learn how to run DU and LP for FHA. I'd never done an FHA loan until 2010.
Talk about what these letters mean.
Oh, sorry. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the conventional or conforming entities of lending. So they require the guidelines, they require what is acceptable for mortgage lending, and set up the rules for underwriting. Mm-hmm. So basically lenders, for example, PRMG where I work now, we're direct lenders. So we directly correlate all of our underwriting and our lending based on what Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac has. Now, they're pretty similar. They're about 90% similar. The only time they really split is hairs, right? So, this person has a lot of student loans. Fannie Mae might be generous. This person has a lot more down, so maybe they get an appraisal waiver, so Freddie Mac might be more generous. Even when you go to lock your loan, after your lock period, Fannie Mae might be more favorable that day, and Freddie Mac might be more favorable that day. So, so it makes a difference. Again, just really splitting hairs. And then FHA is a government entity loan, so Federal Housing Administration. So with that, you run that typically through Fannie Mae. It's called DU, desktop underwriter.
Does it have to be through Fannie Mae?
It
Freddie
doesn't.
has its own version.
Freddie does, but it's not as sellable on the direct loan market. I shouldn't say that. Some lenders would disagree with me. Some lenders can sell it easier on the Fannie market than the Freddie market. So typically it's ran through Fannie Mae.
Is it because one has a lower rate, or?
No, I think more so. Sorry, I'll start that sentence again. You're gonna get a lot of these poor Kleenexes. She's like, I'm gonna kill her. So a lot of it, I think, is more so just the lender's favorable depending on who they sell it to. So like a direct lender, we could sell batches to, for example, a large lender such as Mr. Cooper or Wells Fargo. They're going to come in and they're going to say, we want all your A, B, and C paper over this period of time. We're going to sell it directly to them. They tend to favor DU findings versus LP is Freddie Mac findings.
So when the consumer gets a letter like, hi, X company is going to be servicing your loan now, that's what just happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I forget when I get into all the jargon.
I'm here for it. I am here. I'm soaking it all in.
Yeah.
The only time that a realtor really gets an in-depth view of what your world looks like is when you get lost in it. Now I'm sitting here kind of translating it. Now, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not the first lender that has gone down this road with me, but you are the first lender on this podcast. So that's where I'm sitting here and kind of bringing it back so that we can say it in a language that works for everybody.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the secondary mortgage market, because there's the primary and then the secondary is where these sales happen to Wells Fargo and Mr. Cooper that you talked about.
Yes.
Like, why does that happen?
Because the direct lender typically doesn't hold on to their paper. So the big
Okay.
money lenders want to come in and buy paper in bulk. And typically the direct lenders only hold it for so long. So unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with, from my understanding, okay, because I was just running branches for many years. I never owned a mortgage company, but my understanding is, they hold so much on their reserve lines, so much they sell, so much they hold, so much they can't hold, so much they charge off. So their portfolio makes a difference in order for them to keep lending at large volumes.
Okay. Because I know that there are certain companies that do way more sell-offs. Like certain lenders I work with, I tell them, hey, client, we're working with this person because they get a great deal on a loan for you. You're going to change your loan product within 2 months.
Yes.
A lot of
that's
people
pretty
don't want to
typical.
deal with that paperwork, but if you get a deal, you get a deal, man.
Yeah. Well, and I always encourage people, you get what you pay for. So if you want to go to your bank, right, your Wells Fargo, your US Bank, just trying to think of anybody else out there. Those are typically the two big ones. But clients will come to me and say, well, I really want to work with my bank. And I'll say, okay, so here's the two main components, right? Do you care about service and do you care about your time? Because we're going to charge the same as they charge. And as a matter of fact, like you just said, Melissa, we might even have better rates than they have. So are you going to want to take that time and are you going to want to take all the servicing yourself? Because you're going to be doing everything, right? That person works maybe 9 to 4. They maybe answer their phone. I don't know how many times, Melissa, you're out showing houses on the weekend. And there's no way you're going to be able to put in an offer until Monday at 9 a.m., maybe, if they answer. So that's highly important. And then just being a part of making sure that someone's there to answer your call, take care of your loan. I typically am the one reaching out to the client, where in the reverse role at the bank, the client has to reach out to the bank constantly. And the last thing you ever want to feel is on your day of closing, where's the money and why am I sitting here and why haven't I heard from my lender in 2 weeks and I thought it was all taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've gone down that road before.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's, like I was working with one of those 9 to 5 companies and they called my client and said, oh, we can't close tomorrow. And it was something weird about a credit card that was closed when he was 18 and it had $40 on it. And for some reason that was that was a huge red flag of why he couldn't buy the house. This $40 credit card that had gone into forbearance. I don't know what it's called with credit cards, but way back when, over 15 years ago. And then I'm calling the lender. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? He's not answering my calls. He's not answering my emails. I call his boss. His boss doesn't answer. I call his boss's boss. Got a hold of him. And he said, let me look into this file for you. All of a sudden, I get a call back from the lender that said, we're good.
Wow.
So I think a lot of times when you work with some of these companies that have these people working 9 to 5, they don't necessarily have the background in the loan. They don't really know what's going on. And you need someone who does nothing but mortgage processing day in, day out. And honestly, getting paid on commission makes them a better person because they see, oh, I'm going to get this much money. Okay, I'm going to work my tail off versus someone who's working a salary job. Why would they work harder for you?
Right. And the reality is, they probably, exactly what you said, like the commission part, they don't care as much. You might actually be bothering them. Now they have to work or they have to take a call or they have to look into something. Where, and a lot of them, I hate to say it, but a lot of them don't have experience. They might have got convinced, hey, you work at the bank, you should work in mortgages. We'll give you a $5,000 a year bump. Oh, okay. What do I do? Just answer this phone. Just process this paperwork. Oh, just give this to an underwriter. Oh, they'll tell you what to do and what to say. So they don't actually maybe know what's going on.
Yeah.
And
that's so
unfortunately,
scary.
Yeah. And I've seen it so many times where clients are like, what did I do wrong? Or, majority of the time, the clients that I work with, I would say up to 70% of the time, I work with clients that they have nowhere else to go. And not because I'm a savior of any stretch, by any stretch of imagination. I just know how to solve the problem because I've seen it so many times, right? So a client comes to me, here's my credit score, not very good. Here's my situation going on with my house. Or the one I'm trying to purchase. Here's what I've been told. But typically they get told maybe one or two different things, like something's wrong with my income. There's nothing wrong with their income. There's something wrong with my job. Nothing wrong with their job. There's something wrong with an old credit card. Nothing wrong with the old credit card. But what they're getting told so many times is because the people who work their loans don't know really what's going on. So they're just going by what they're told. So I always call them the Hail Marys. They come to me, please tell me you're my last resort. You're one person that can save this. And if you can't do it, no one else can. And I say, typically that's the case, yes. And I'll give an honest answer immediately. I think even you and I run across some where you're like, Virginia, if they can get a loan, please do it. And I'll say, okay. And I will. I will try my dangest for everybody, right? But if we can't do it, we set a plan and we set a course of action and we make sure we stay on that course. So so many times I see people get pre-approved because they really want the deal. The lender does, and they are doing their due diligence and they don't know how to fix the problems.
Yep.
So it's just being able to maneuver and fix it, because so many times clients, your buyers specifically, will disclose things to you or and turns out it's something a little bit different, and then turns out it's really different, and then turns out how do we fix it? And just being able to maneuver past that and get through it and help the client understand it, I think is really, really helpful, instead of just telling them, sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah. I remembered that you had a credit repair company for a while too.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So that, what years were you doing that?
Oh boy, 2008 through 2012.
Oh, okay. So it was a way to diversify during the crash recovery.
Yes, it helped a lot of people who had really bad credit during the crash. Yes.
Yeah.
What I learned most about it, or what I liked most about it, was I showed people how to correct their credit, how to get them a mortgage shortly after, what to do different. Now this was in Little Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and it did so successfully well. And 2 of my employees wanted to buy me out when I moved back to Minnesota.
Wow.
So yeah, they ran the credit company for I think up to 10 years after I left.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Look at you.
It was a good business.
Yeah, changing futures. I think the difference between having a salary job and an entrepreneurial job is it's not even a job, it's a lifestyle. But the difference is the opportunity for growth. You changed their lives. You gave them this job, this business, and it changed their lives.
Yeah, and it changed my life, right? It helped me understand how to better treat people, how to take care of them. You know, if a client walked in and they had a really low credit score, it's embarrassing for them, right? It's hard for them to tell you as a realtor, but it's really hard for them to open up to a lender and say, I know you're just going to tell me you can't do anything, I have to go away. And it's so easy to do as a lender, trust me. It'd be really easy to do. But I don't like to do that. I like to say, look, you're in a bad spot and that's okay. I'm going to show you how to get out of it. And there is a light, because if you don't know the steps, you're just going to continually do the wrong thing and beat yourself up for it.
Yeah, I think that's huge about our culture. We never learn how to navigate the credit system.
Right.
Never.
Right.
And I wish there was a more concise way to teach everybody about it. But so many times people are at a point where they want to buy a house. And this is when they learn, oh, I've been doing it wrong my whole life.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to have somebody that shows them a route to recovery.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even when they are very resistant, when they call me, oh, I have a really bad score. And I'm like, that's okay. Oh, I had really bad things happen. I'm like, that's okay. You don't even have to tell me. You know, I could probably guess based on what I'm going to see, but at the same point, I'm not here to make you feel shameful, is what I tell them. I'm here to make sure that whatever it is that's occurred, let's make the right steps to make it better. As a matter of fact, you had referred me somebody, and she just reached out to me again. Yeah. Well, this last weekend, and she said, I know my husband applied with me, and I know he had some credit issues, but what if it was just me? And I looked back and I went, uh-oh. She has 2 non-credit scores, so 0 FICO scores we call them, and only one score of the 3 credit bureaus. So you got your TransUnion, your Equifax.
How does that happen? That's like a chimera.
Yeah. So what happens is she hasn't had any history of credit since 2015. So we're going on 7 years of no history. The history she does have in the last 7 years was all collections or no installment loans or credit cards or revolving trade lines. So therefore, her credit eventually just reports nothing. So I gave her the advice. I said, here are some recommended credit, secure credit lines. Here's how you do it. Here's what you're going to do. Here's some recommendations of some car companies that go for people with no credit if you're looking maybe to get a vehicle of some sort and pay it back right away. I said, but within 6 months, if you do one of these 3 plans, your credit will show a score of at least between 650 and 700.
Because you have a tool that predicts that too.
That too, yes.
So if anybody wanted a little bit of credit help because they want to buy a house, they should contact Virginia.
Yes. And then they will go look for House of Melissa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been great. You have such a rich history. I think everybody's goal is to start doing some kind of business, get consistent income, and then move it to entrepreneurialism, like buying something like Stretch Lab. It's huge. It's great. And I think just as a note, what do we have for time?
We're at an hour.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So
Sorry.
Oh, no.
Doesn't it feel like it's a half hour?
I know.
And all of a sudden you're at an
Well,
hour.
you and I have sat at a bar and talked for 3 hours before, so.
On accident.
We were eating. I like we were eating.
Okay, I'm drinking out of a wine bottle.
We were eating and drinking.
And drinking, got a couple courses.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rare that I find someone at a restaurant that can go par for par with me
Yes.
and matching like taste in food, taste in alcohol. And the last time we went out to eat, you were like, these glasses of wine are $40, but they're worth it. We ordered it.
We ordered the whole bottle. The manager had to come over and open it.
I forgot.
I was like, wait, what? We ordered a bottle of Camus. When the manager had to come over and uncork it, we're like watching her. She like put it in this thing and it spilled over and we're like, the whole time.
Yep.
It was crazy.
That was the nicest bottle of wine I've ever bought.
Yeah, I love Camus.
Mhm.
It's great. It's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bottle. So anyway, just wrapping up, I always ask everybody, what is one phrase that you live by? I'm like, I probably should have given you the questions ahead of time.
Right. Well, I guess for me, Melissa, my phrase that I live by, it's not necessarily a phrase, but I believe that in any point in your life when you have a high or a low, when you get through all the challenges, I say that eventually, when you become a victim of something, and then later you become a survivor, and then when you survive, and once you become a warrior. So what I categorize as a warrior is someone who can teach each step of the way. So I can run across a victim and I can tell them, here's some steps on how to help you. Here's what helped me. Here's what can get you to the being a survivor mode. And then when you're ready, now you can teach others and become that warrior. So for me, I would say I feel like I'm in the number 1 warrior category because I work with people who have been through so much in life and how to teach others and how to better their lives.
Yeah. I mean, you've been through your fair share a lot also, and I just think it's so great that you're using that to make other people's lives better.
Yeah. I mean, I can always tell you about the ex-husbands anytime, Melissa, to help you with your love life. That's one way of being a warrior.
Nothing can help my love life.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. But I have 3 examples of not what to do, so we can do that.
Perfect. And on our next podcast.
Yes. Husband number 1. Ready?
Well, thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited you could make it. Thanks for being my first friend drinking wine on the show with me. And I'm excited to see your growth in the next year and navigating this difficult market. I know you're going to do great.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
And I look forward to us crushing our dreams.
We will.
Yes,
We will.
we will.
Warrior style.
Warrior style. Perfect.
And fade out. Success.
Success!